Why are you still trying to warm up a man who's turning cold on you? Do you hear yourself? Do you see what you're doing? You're bending, breaking, overthinking, making excuses. For what? For a man who has already checked out? A man who barely replies, barely looks at you, barely acknowledges the effort you put in? You feel it in your gut, don't you? That slow, sinking feeling when his name pops up on your screen. But instead of excitement, it's one-word answers, dry replies, or worse, silence. And yet, here you are, still trying, still hoping, still convincing yourself that maybe, just maybe, if you love him a little harder, if you show him how much you care, he'll come back. Let me tell you something. Men do not forget women they truly want. They do not act confused. They do not suddenly lose interest overnight. If he's acting cold, it's because he knows he can, because he has already decided you are not a priority, because somewhere along the way he realized that no matter how little effort he gives, you will still be there. So ladies, press the like button and subscribe, because today I am giving you what no one else will, the truth. The truth that will hurt, but the truth that will set you free. Welcome back to the channel, and if this is your first time here, buckle up, because I am not here to whisper sweet lies in your ear. I am here to wake you the hell up. A man's love is not a mystery. It is not complicated. It does not need to be deciphered like some ancient code. It is clear. It is consistent. It is obvious. When a man wants you, you will know. When he doesn't, you will be confused. And yet, here you are, choosing confusion over clarity, choosing pain over power, choosing to stay stuck in a situation that is breaking you. Let me put it this way. Have you ever seen a child with a new toy? At first, they're obsessed. They play with it every day, carry it everywhere, show it off. But over time, they get bored. The excitement wears off. And what do? They toss it aside. It sits there, untouched, forgotten, while they go chase after something new. But the second you try to take that toy away, suddenly they want it again. That is how a man operates when he knows you're too afraid to leave. I once worked with a woman who spent 4 years chasing a man who gave her nothing. He was hot and cold, in and out, here today, gone tomorrow. And every time he pulled away, she ran after him. Every time he ignored her, she texted more. Every time he disrespected her, she forgave him. Until one day, he disappeared for good. No warning, no explanation, just vanished. A month later, he was engaged to someone else. She called me, crying, shaking, unable to breathe, asking, "What did I do wrong?" You know what she did wrong? She stayed too long. She made it too easy. She proved to him that no matter what he did, she would never leave. So when it came time for him to settle down, he chose someone else. Someone who never tolerated his half-love. Someone who never chased. You need to hear this. A man who acts cold does not fear losing you. He assumes you will stay no matter how bad it gets. And as long as you keep proving him right, he will keep treating you like an option. You have spent weeks, months, maybe even years trying to love a man into loving you back. Where has it gotten you? Do you feel loved? Do you feel chosen? Or do you feel like a woman who has given everything only to be left with nothing? And here's the cruelest part. He knows what he's doing. He knows you're sitting there analyzing his every text, wondering what you did wrong, bending over backwards to fix things. And he does not care. Because the moment a man truly fears losing you, he steps up. He does not act cold. He does not pull away. He does not make you feel unwanted. So tell me, how much longer are you going to sit in this misery? How much more of your time are you going to waste? Because let me tell you something, he is not wasting his. While you are breaking down over him, he's out living his life, unbothered, untouched, completely free, because he knows you're still there, waiting. Enough. Say it with me. I refuse to be an afterthought. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let it sink into your bones. Because what's coming next? I'm about to tell you exactly why he started acting cold, and what you need to do right now to make sure he never gets the chance to do it again. And trust me, my dear, he will feel it. Number 1. The brutal truth. He's cold because he knows he can be. So, my dear, how many times have you sat there staring at your phone, waiting for his reply? How many nights have you laid in bed, crying over a man who treats you like an afterthought? How many times have you begged in silence, hoping that if you just love him a little harder, he'll finally wake up and see your worth? Let me tell you something. A man will only do what you allow. He's pulling away because he knows you won't leave. He has already tested your patience, stretched your tolerance, pushed you to the breaking point, and you're still there. He has seen you forgive the unforgivable, explain the inexcusable, and tolerate the intolerable. And because you've never shown him consequences, he believes he can keep doing it. You think he's cold because he's stressed, because he's just going through something, because he's not good at expressing emotions. No, my dear, he is cold because he knows he can be. You are like an open book, always there, always waiting, always ready to explain yourself. And society? Oh, society loves this. Society has conditioned you to believe that love is suffering, that a good woman is patient, understanding, and endlessly forgiving, that if you just hold on, if you just prove yourself, if you just love him through it, he will eventually see your worth. But tell me, where has that gotten you? You've exhausted yourself trying to keep a man who has already checked out. You've sacrificed your peace, your self-worth, your dignity. For what? For a man who doesn't even look at you the same way anymore. Wake up. If a man is cold to you, it's not by accident. It's by choice. I once read a post from a woman on a relationship forum. She had been with her boyfriend for 3 years, and suddenly he changed. No more late-night calls, no more good morning texts, no more plans for the future. He was busy. He was stressed. He just needed some space. And she believed him. She gave him time. She was patient. She reassured herself that real love takes work. And then, one day, out of nowhere, she found out he was warm, affectionate, and deeply in love with someone else. Do you understand what that means? He wasn't incapable of love. He wasn't bad at texting. He wasn't emotionally unavailable. He just wasn't that way with her. And that is what hurts the most, isn't it? The realization that he had the capacity to love, to be romantic, to put in effort, but he just didn't do it for you. It's a hard pill to swallow, but you need to swallow it. Because this isn't just about him. This is about the lies you've been fed your entire life. Since you were a little girl, society told you that the more you give, the more valuable you are, that your ability to endure pain is what makes you a good woman, that if you just love hard enough, you can change a man. But what they didn't tell you? A man only values what he fears losing. And right now, he doesn't fear losing you. He has no reason to. Because he knows that no matter how many times he pulls away, you will be there, waiting with open arms. No matter how many times he disrespects you, you will excuse it, justify it, and forgive it. No matter how many times he acts cold, you will keep chasing the warmth. And that is why he is comfortable being distant, because he knows you're afraid of walking away. But let me ask you something. What about you? Why are you not afraid of losing yourself? Why are you willing to break for a man who won't even bend for you? Why do you think he is the prize when you are the one with the heart big enough to love through the pain? Enough. I need you to hear me. Love is not supposed to hurt like this. Love is not supposed to feel like anxiety, uncertainty, and waiting. Love is not supposed to be chasing, proving, and suffering. Love is supposed to choose you. And if it's not choosing you, then it's not love. So here's what you need to do. You need to rise from this pain. Because right now, you feel broken. Right now, it feels like you lost something valuable. Right now, it feels like if you just had one more chance, one more conversation, one more moment, maybe you could fix it. But let me tell you the truth. The pain you feel is not from losing him. The pain you feel is from abandoning yourself. You have spent so much time trying to keep him that you forgot to keep yourself. So here's what you're going to do. You are going to take back every piece of yourself that you gave away. Every moment you spent waiting by the phone. Every time you ignored your intuition. Every time you accepted less than you deserved. You are going to reclaim all of it. Because the truth is, he is not your problem anymore. You are. It's time to start choosing yourself. It's time to start loving yourself harder than you ever loved him. It's time to stop explaining yourself. Stop begging for answers. Stop making excuses for a man who knows what he's doing. Say it with me. I refuse to suffer for love. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. Because what's coming next? I'm about to tell you exactly why he's keeping you around, but never fully committing. And trust me, my dear, once you see it, you will never let a man play you again. Number 2, the shelf theory. He's keeping you as a backup. So, my dear, you think this is love? A man who only remembers you when he's bored? A man who disappears for days, maybe even weeks, and then suddenly reappears like nothing happened? A man who gives you just enough attention to keep you hopeful, but never enough to make you feel secure. Let me tell you what's really happening. You are not his priority. You are his insurance policy. Ever noticed how people put things on a shelf and only pick them up when they need them? That's you to him. He's keeping you there, untouched, collecting dust, while he goes out into the world and explores other options. And yet, here you are, still waiting, still picking up the phone the second he texts, still answering when he calls after ignoring you for days, still holding on to crumbs, thinking that maybe, just maybe, if you just stay patient a little longer, he'll finally see your worth. Let me be brutally honest. Men do not forget women they truly want. If he wanted you, you would know. There would be no waiting, no guessing, no wondering. Men do not shelf women they are afraid to lose. The truth. He is keeping you in the background because he is not afraid of losing you. He is out there talking to other women, entertaining new possibilities, seeing how much better he can do, while keeping you just close enough to return to if nothing else works out. Are you starting to see it now? I once read a story on a forum about a woman who was madly in love with her boyfriend. He had started becoming distant, barely texting, rarely making plans, never initiating anything. She excused it. She told herself, he's just busy. And then one day, she found out the truth. He was actively dating someone else, taking another woman out, texting her all day, treating her with the love and attention that he used to give her, but he never officially ended things with the first woman. Why? Because she was his backup plan. Do you know how much that hurt her? She was sitting there, waiting for him to come back while he was out chasing another woman, and when that situation didn't work out, he came crawling back. Suddenly, he was texting her again. Suddenly, he was apologizing. Suddenly, he was missing her. But did he come back because he loved her? No. He came back because he lost his first choice. And this is what you need to understand. You were never his first choice. You were his comfort zone, his safety net, his backup plan. And what did she do? She took him back. And guess what? He did it to her again. Because when a man knows you'll always be there, he has no reason to value you. So tell me, are you really okay being an option, a second thought, a convenience? Because let me tell you what happens when you refuse to be shelved. The game changes. A woman who removes herself from the shelf, a woman who walks away without a second thought, that woman is unforgettable. That woman is never a backup plan again. Because the truth is, men do not regret losing a woman until they realize they can never get her back. And that is the lesson you need to learn right now. So tell me, my dear, are you going to stay on his shelf, waiting for him to need you again? Or are you finally going to walk away and make sure he never gets the chance? Say it with me. I refuse to be a backup plan. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. Because what's coming next? I'm about to tell you why men only commit to the women they fear losing. And trust me, my dear, this will change everything. Number 3. Men only value what they fear losing. So, my dear, let me ask you something. What happens when a man knows he can treat you however he wants and you'll still be there? I'll tell you. He stops trying. He stops caring. He stops putting in effort. He pulls away, knowing you will chase. Because men only value what they fear losing. Let me break it down for you. Men are hunters. They chase what they don't have. They fight for what is uncertain. They put effort into what they think might slip away. But the second a man knows for sure that you are always there, that you will keep giving, keep waiting, keep loving him no matter how little he gives, you become old furniture, comfortable, familiar, easy to ignore. Think about it. When was the last time you noticed a chair that's been in your house for years? Do you walk past it and feel excitement? Do you admire it? No. It's just there. Useful when you need it, forgotten when you don't. That's you, my dear. That's what you've allowed yourself to become. You're always there, always ready, always waiting. And because of that, he has no motivation to step up. You want a real-life example. I once knew a woman who spent 6 years in a relationship with a man who treated her like an afterthought. 6 years of waiting, 6 years of excuses, 6 years of being a damn doormat. Every time she thought about leaving, he would throw her just enough affection to keep her hooked. A last-minute date. A "sorry babe, I've been busy" text. A quick moment of attention to make sure she didn't fully wake up to the reality of what was happening. And she held on. She kept hoping, kept waiting. And then one day, she finally left. No warnings, no explanations, just gone. And guess what? He lost his mind. Suddenly, he was texting, calling, showing up at her house. Suddenly, he realized she was everything he ever wanted. Suddenly, he missed her. But you know what? It was too late. She had finally seen the truth. He never truly valued her until he lost her. Because men Men do not change when you suffer. They change when they suffer. And you're the one suffering right now. You're the one losing sleep. You're the one checking your phone. You're the one questioning yourself, your worth, your love. But where is his suffering? Where is his pain? It doesn't exist, because he still has you. And as long as he knows you're still there, he will never, ever value you the way you deserve. So listen to me. The only way to make a man step up is to make it clear that you will walk away if he doesn't, not threaten to leave, not cry about leaving, not say, "I'm done 100 times," and still stay. You walk away for real. Because if a man doesn't fear losing you, he will never treat you like someone worth keeping. And let me tell you something, a woman who knows her worth, a woman who refuses to beg, a woman who disappears the moment she is not valued, that woman is unforgettable. So tell me, my dear, are you ready to stop waiting? Are you ready to stop giving chances? Are you ready to walk away like a woman who knows she is the prize? Say it with me. I refuse to beg for love. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. Because what's coming next? I'm about to show you why silence is your most powerful weapon and how to use it to make sure he regrets ever taking you for granted. And trust me, my dear, he will feel it. Number 4, the power of silence. Stop explaining yourself. So, my dear, how many times have you done it? He acts distant, and suddenly you're typing long paragraphs. He stops calling, and you sit there asking, "Did I do something wrong?" He pulls away, and you chase him harder. Stop. Do you even realize what you're doing? Every time you explain yourself, you lower your value. Every time you ask why he's acting cold, every time you beg for clarity, every time you try to fix what he already decided to break, you make him feel more powerful. And you make yourself smaller. You turn into a woman who is waiting for his approval, waiting for his reassurance, waiting for him to validate your worth. And let me tell you something. A man who truly values you, he will never put you in a position where you feel like you have to beg for his attention. But here you are, overthinking every text, replaying every conversation, convincing yourself that if you just explain how much you care, if you just get him to understand, if you just find the right words, he'll stop acting distant. Let me break it to you. He understands perfectly. He just doesn't care. Do you think he's sitting there, confused, wondering why you feel neglected? No. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows he's pulling away. He knows you're hurting. And you know what? He likes it. Because the more confused you are, the more control he has. The more desperate you seem, the more powerful he feels. And the second you start chasing, the second you start explaining, the second you start asking, "What's wrong?" he wins. You want a real example? Let me tell you about a woman I read about in a forum. She was with a guy for 2 years. In the beginning, he was everything, sweet, attentive, always checking in. But one day, he changed. The texts slowed down. The phone calls stopped. The affection disappeared. And what did she do? She begged for answers. She texted over and over asking, "Did I do something wrong?" She asked his friends if he was okay. She tried to prove she was worthy of his attention. And him? He ignored her. The more she chased, the more he pulled away. The more she begged for clarity, the less he respected her. Until one day, she finally stopped. No warning, no last message, no goodbye, just silence. And guess what? 2 weeks later, he was blowing up her phone. Suddenly, he missed her. Suddenly, he wanted to talk. Suddenly, he needed to know what she was doing, where she was, and why she had gone silent. Because let me tell you something about men. They do not feel your loss when you cry. They feel it when your absence is louder than your words. You want to teach a man a lesson? Disappear. No texts, no calls, no explanations, just silence. Because the truth is, men are not wired to value what is always available. They chase what they can't have. They respect what they can't control. And if he knows that no matter how distant he acts, no matter how cold he becomes, you will still be there. He will never change. So listen to me, and listen well. You do not beg for clarity. You do not chase a man for answers. You do not explain your worth to someone who refuses to see it. Instead, you remove your energy. Because a woman who knows her value, she does not sit there trying to convince a man to love her. She does not send paragraphs to someone who won't even send a sentence. She does not wait for a man to realize what he already knows. She walks away in silence. And that, my dear, that is when he will feel it. So tell me, are you going to keep wasting your breath explaining yourself to a man who has already stopped listening? Or are you going to go silent and make sure he never forgets the day you stopped chasing? Say it with me. My silence is my power. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. Because what's coming next? I'm about to show you the 3-day rule that flips the game on him, how pulling back makes him chase harder than ever before. And trust me, my dear, he will feel it. Number 5. The 3-day rule. Flip the game on him. So, my dear, how many times has he made you wait? How many times have you sat there staring at your phone, checking if he's online, hoping, praying for him to text you first? How many nights have you waited for a call that never came? Now, let me ask you this. When was the last time he waited for you? When was the last time he felt uncertain? When was the last time he wondered what you were doing, who you were with, if you were slipping away? Never. Because you never gave him a reason to. That changes today. Because men don't feel your loss right away. They feel it when your attention is gone. Right now, he is comfortable. He knows you are waiting. He knows that no matter how distant he acts, no matter how many times he ignores your messages, no matter how many plans he cancels, you are still there. And because of that, he feels no urgency, no fear, no panic. But what happens when you suddenly go silent? When you stop reaching out? When you stop checking his social media? When you stop being available? That is when he starts to feel it. So here's what I want you to do. Try the 3-day rule. 1. Go completely silent for 3 days. No calls, no texts, no liking his posts. Nothing. You disappear without a single word. 2. Focus on yourself. Hit the gym. Go out with friends. Dress up. Look your absolute best. Post a picture where you are glowing, happy, and unbothered. 3. Wait. Let him feel the shift. Let him wonder where you went. Let him start questioning if you are slipping away. And then, watch what happens. I once worked with a woman who was madly in love with a man who treated her like an option. He would take hours, sometimes days, to respond to her. He barely made plans. He was always busy. And she kept trying harder. Until one day, I told her to stop. She went completely silent for 3 days. No messages, no calls, nothing. And suddenly, he was texting her, calling her, asking what she was doing. Why? Because for the first time he felt her absence. Men do not process loss in real time. They do not sit there thinking, "Wow, I am taking her for granted." No, they only realize what they had when it's no longer there. And right now, you are making it too easy. You are rewarding his coldness with attention, love, and effort. Stop. Let him feel your absence. Let him feel the same uncertainty he put you through. And I promise you, he will notice. But what happens when he does? What happens when the messages start rolling in? When he suddenly misses you? When he asks, "Are you okay?" Here's what you do. Do not reply immediately. Wait. Let him feel the anxiety. Let him wonder. Do not act excited. Your response should be calm, detached, unbothered. Do not reward him. Do not rush back into his arms just because he panicked for a moment. Because remember this, a man will always chase what he feels is slipping away. And right now, you have been too damn easy to have. So tell me, are you ready to stop begging? Are you ready to stop chasing? Are you ready to make him feel what you've been feeling all along? Say it with me. I choose myself first. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. Because what's coming next? I'm about to tell you exactly what to do when he comes back and how to make sure he regrets ever taking you for granted. And trust me, my dear, he will feel it. Number 6. When he comes back, don't reward him. So, my dear, you think he's gone for good? You think he's out there, living his best life, forgetting you ever existed? No, that's not how this works. He will come back. They always do. Maybe in a few days, maybe in a few weeks, maybe even months later, when you've finally started healing, when you've started moving on, when you've stopped thinking about him every damn second. And then, just when you least expect it, there he is. A casual, "Hey," a random, "How have you been?" A pathetic little breadcrumb just to see if you'll bite. But listen to me very carefully. How you respond will determine what happens next. Because if you jump at the chance to talk to him, if you act relieved that he finally remembered you exist, if you welcome him back like nothing happened, you are teaching him that he can do this to you again. If you reward bad behavior, he will keep doing it. A man will never change when his actions have no consequences. So, what do you do when he comes back? Don't get excited. No smiling at your phone like an idiot. No butterflies. No relief. Don't reply immediately. Let him wait. Let him wonder. Let him feel ignored for once. Don't give him validation. No, "I missed you." No, "I was hoping you'd reach out." Nothing that makes him think he still has access to you. Because let me tell you something, he's not back because he suddenly realized your worth. He's back because he feels the shift, because he feels the power slipping from his hands, because he thought you'd always be there. And now he's not so sure. I once read a post from a woman on a forum. She had been in a toxic on-again, off-again situation with a guy who treated her like an option. Every time he pulled away, she begged for his attention. Every time he ignored her, she tried harder. Until one day, she had enough. She went completely silent for 2 weeks. No texts, no calls, no checking in. And what happened? He came running back. But this time, she did something different. When he reached out, she didn't get excited. She didn't send a long reply. She didn't say, "Oh my God, I missed you." She simply said, "I've been busy." And suddenly, he was the one chasing her. Because for the first time, he felt uncertain. He felt her slipping away. And men? Men only panic when they feel a loss of control. You want to teach him a lesson. Don't reward his half-assed efforts. Don't jump just because he finally remembered to text you. Don't run back just because he suddenly realized he might lose you. Make him work for it. Because let me tell you something, my dear. You are not the same woman he walked away from. You are not waiting by the phone. You are not desperate for his attention. You are not a woman who celebrates the bare minimum. And the second he realizes he no longer has power over you, his entire attitude will change. So tell me, are you going to fall for the same trick again? Or are you finally going to make him feel the loss? Say it with me. I do not reward disrespect. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. Because what's coming next? I'm about to show you the ultimate power move, the one thing that will make sure no man ever takes you for granted again. And trust me, my dear, he will feel it. Number 7. The one thing that makes him regret everything. So, my dear, you want to know what makes a man truly regret losing you. It's not your angry texts. It's not making him jealous. It's not crying and begging him to see your worth. It's acting like he never existed. Men don't fear your sadness. They don't fear your anger. They don't even fear losing you in the moment. What they fear is watching you thrive without them. They fear seeing you glowing, growing, winning, without their presence, without their approval, without their name attached to yours. Because men are wired to believe they are the center of a woman's world. They believe you will fall apart without them. They assume they are too important for you to truly move on. So when you show him that you don't need him, that he is not a factor, not a thought, not even a memory that holds weight anymore, that is when he feels it. I once read about a woman whose boyfriend had been acting distant, barely texting, barely showing up, barely caring. At first, she excused it. She convinced herself he was just stressed, that he needed space. And then she found out the truth. He was seeing someone else. Now, what do most women do in this situation? They cry, they beg, they ask, "Why wasn't I enough?" They stalk the new girl's social media, comparing themselves, drowning in insecurity. But she did something different. She went silent. No breakdowns, no closure talks, no final messages. She simply disappeared. And instead of falling apart, she leveled up. She hit the gym. She started dressing up every day, looking like a damn queen. She went out, had fun, lived. And guess what? Months later, he came crawling back. Because he had expected her to suffer. He had expected her to wait. He had expected her to care. But when he reached out, she didn't give him the reaction he was looking for. She wasn't angry. She wasn't bitter. She wasn't even excited that he was back. She was indifferent. And that broke him. Because the worst thing you can do to a man who took you for granted is to make him irrelevant, to make your life so full, so exciting, so powerful that he realizes he was never the reason for your happiness to begin with. Because let me tell you something, my dear. A man does not regret losing a woman who cries over him. He regrets losing a woman who erases him. And that is what you need to do. Your new life should be so good that he becomes irrelevant. That's the goal. Not revenge, not proving a point, but building a life so big, so full, so untouchable that he is nothing more than a chapter you barely remember reading. So tell me, are you going to sit here, wasting time, waiting for a man who never valued you? Or are you going to step into your power and become the woman he never gets access to again? Say it with me. I am the prize. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. Because what's coming next? I'm about to show you the final move, the one thing that will make sure no man ever plays you again. And trust me, my dear, he will feel it. Number 8. The final lesson. Never let a man make you feel unwanted. Twice. So, my dear, how many times are you going to let him make you feel like an afterthought? How many times will you sit there, staring at your phone, waiting for a message that never comes? How many nights will you cry over a man who acts like your presence is a burden? The first time he acts cold, that is your warning. The second time, that is your fault. Because let me tell you something, a man who truly values you does not make you feel unwanted. A man who is afraid to lose you does not test your patience just to see how much you can endure. But if he pulled away once and you let it slide, if he acted distant and you chased harder, if he treated you like an option and you made excuses for him, congratulations, you just taught him that he can keep doing it. And that's exactly what he will do. Because the first time, it was a test. He wanted to see if you would accept less. He wanted to see how much you would tolerate. And when you did, he stopped fearing your loss. Let me tell you about a woman who made this mistake. She had a boyfriend who, in the beginning, was everything she ever wanted. Attentive, affectionate, consistent. But then, he started pulling away. At first it was subtle, less texting, fewer compliments, taking longer to reply. She noticed it, of course. She felt the shift. But she told herself, it's just a rough patch. He's stressed. He'll come back. So she stayed. And he did it again. This time, he barely made plans. He stopped calling. He made her feel like she had to earn his love. And what did she do? She worked even harder to prove herself. She forgave. She waited. She told herself, love is about patience. Until one day she woke up and realized she was barely a priority anymore. He had trained her to accept less and less until she was sitting there begging for the bare minimum. And him? He never changed. Why would he? She had proven that no matter how distant he became, she would stay. So listen to me, and listen well. If a man makes you feel unwanted once, take the hint. If he does it twice, make sure he never gets the chance again. Because let me tell you the ugly truth. You are not special to him if he thinks he can treat you like nothing and still have access to you. Let that sink in. You want to be the woman who commands respect. Then stop begging for love. Stop giving chances to a man who already showed you who he is. A man will only step up for a woman who has the courage to walk away. And the next time a man acts cold, distant, uninterested, don't explain yourself. Don't ask why. Don't fight for his attention. Just leave. No warnings, no dramatic speeches, no waiting for him to realize your worth. Because he already knows your worth, he's just hoping you don't. So tell me, my dear, how many more times are you going to let a man make you feel like you are not enough? Say it with me. I refuse to be unwanted twice. Write it in the comments. Say it to yourself. Say it to the universe. Let the world hear you. So, my dear, men do not change because you cry, beg, or prove your worth. They change when they realize they lost you for good. The only way to teach him a lesson is to walk away and never look back. No second chances, no explanations, no waiting. Subscribe and share this with a woman who needs to hear it, because the woman who walks away always wins.